Hi, Kyle Barton here with K Barton Tools, and I want to introduce you to a fabulous accessory for the boring jig, and that is this all metal 6-degree reamer. Works fabulous with the jig. So this is actually being sold by my buddy Shawn Murphy at ShawnMurphyWindsorChairs.com, and I'll have a link to his website here where you can pick this up. And this is a fantastic piece of kit. It reams holes very well, very smoothly in both hardwoods and softwoods. It works with the boring jig. So the boring jig, as you may know, utilizes this angle gauge here to accurately mark and then drill for your leg mortises, arm posts, spindles into your seat blank, and eliminates the use of bevel gauges and lasers in doing those types of operations. Very easy to do, very accurate. Well, now you actually have to ream the leg hole that you did to actually create that tapered mortise. So what this allows you to do is actually use this with the boring jig. So now you can simply drill and then ream your leg mortise all in one step. And it's fast, it's easy, and most importantly, it is dead accurate. Without, like I said, without the use of bevels, bevel gauges, or lasers, or anything of that nature. So how does this work? Well, the reamer comes with a 7/16 inch hex shank, which works perfectly in the 1/2 inch coupler that I have here. So at first you would drill your leg mortise, and then you would simply exchange the drill bit for the reamer to then ream your hole. So let me put this in this dog hole here. That lined up. And cinched down. So basically you have your jig in place clamped. There'll be demos here in a second so you can see how this works. And then you simply replace your drill bit with the reamer and then ream away. Now, what you may be asking is, how do I know I got to the right depth? So, for my leg holes, I'm just going to use leg holes. You can do the same for arm post holes. They're usually a little of a smaller diameter. But for my leg holes, I like 15/16 of an inch for the top diameter, so to speak, of the tapered mortise. So I basically created this jig, and it's just basically a reamed hole at that right diameter, and you just stick this in here. And you take one of these fine point Sharpies and just transfer a line right there onto the reamer. Just like that. Now, I've reamed a bunch of holes in testing this out, and this mark stays put. Now, if you need to remove the mark, you can just use some solvent like acetone or something like that, and it'll just remove that Sharpie mark. So anyway, so what you can then do is ream your hole, and let's say this is at the depth, even though it isn't. So normally when you're doing arm posts or reaming for leg mortises, you usually have 2 of those to do at the same angle. So once you have reamed one and got that to the depth using this as the adjustment, what you can then do is use one of these depth stops. And this is made out of the UHMW material. You can use, if you have like a 1/2 inch metal drill depth stop, it'll work too, but I just don't like the metal on metal action. This is a little bit nicer. And if you want to pick one of these up, I will just message me and I will sell you one of these, or tell you where to buy it, whatever you want to do there. And then you can simply mark that. So you've reamed one hole, you've got that to the correct depth. You can put this depth stop in, and then go in and drill and ream the other leg mortise or arm post. And then when you ream it, you will not only have this line here, but then you will also have a depth stop that will work. I think we need to move on to the demos, but like I said, this is just dead nuts accurate. Eliminates bevel gauges, eliminates lasers, and most of all, it gives you all the confidence you need to properly drill and ream your leg mortises at the correct angle. So with that said, let's get to the demos. I'm going to set this up like I'm drilling from the bottom side of the seat, and I'm going to drill a 16 degree leg mortise. So the boring jig comes with this handy setup block. Setup block has a magnet here that interfaces here. That just kind of keeps it in place as you move it around and secure. So you just do this, put it on there, and you line up this edge with your sight line. And then I have a little mark here. Don't pay any attention to this line, but I have a little mark here, and that's where we're going to drill our 16 degree leg mortise. So I just come up here. Sorry if my head gets in the way here. And line this up to 16 degrees. Right there. So now what we need to do is put some clamps on it. So the advantage of these runners is it allows you to clamp in any position pretty much on a seat blank. So you'll always be able to find a way to clamp at least two sides of this. So excuse me as I come in over here. Put a clamp on here. So now we got that securely clamped. Want to make sure my mark didn't move and everything looks good, and it does. I'm going to reposition the camera, and we'll get ready to drill and ream the seat mortise. Hey, this is voiceover Kyle, and I will be taking over, so to speak, as I narrate what we're doing here. So first of all, we're going to be drilling this mortise into this pine blank. I should mention that we're drilling at the optimal speed here, which is balls out. Basically the number 2 setting on your drill, and as fast as it will go. So we're drilling this out. Now that is not to be confused with what we need to do for the reamer. We want to go relatively slow with the reamer on the number 1 setting of the drill. Now I should have noted here that this is a pine blank, actually a mystery pine blank, but I do not have any seat blanks that don't already have a drilled seat mortise. I do have a couple that don't have a reamed seat mortise, and we'll get in on how you do that in our second demo here, which will be on an actual poplar seat blank. But right now we're switching out the drill bit for the reamer, and I found that it's best to actually put the reamer in the actual leg hole to make this exchange. So we got that snugged up, and we're ready to get going here. So we want to reattach our drill to the shaft and make sure that that is on the number 1 setting. One of the things that you want to do when you're reaming here is to make sure that you go at a relatively slow speed. Hardwoods, you want to go just a little bit faster, but still on that number 1 setting. So you still want to go at a fairly slow speed, but just a little faster than you would in softwoods. And you want to stop every so often and clear the chips. And of course, you want to also keep an eye on that mark that we made on the reamer to make sure that you're at the proper depth when you get there. So also one of the things I'll be using here in a second is the small base for my stretcher jig. The stretcher jig actually has a tapered mortise in there to fit into your leg hole so you can drill for your stretchers. But one of the handy features of that is it actually has marks on it when you're at the proper depth. In this case, I like my depth to be 15/16 of an inch at the topmost or widest portion of the tapered mortise. So I will actually use that little small base there just to put in there and gauge to see where I'm on. And yes, there I am, I'm on. So we will go ahead and put the tapered jig back into the mortise so that it's at that depth. And then we can use this depth stop I told you about to actually put on there and get that secure. Now this is kind of like insurance, so that when you're drilling two leg mortises, usually they're at the same degree angle. So this will give you some opportunities to not only make sure that you're at the same depth for each of those leg mortises. Now here, due to time, I just kind of sped this up. This is double speed here so that you won't have to go through the see all of this in the slow motion, in the real motion, so to speak. Anyway, so we're actually securing the drill bit back in and taking the clamps off, cleaning everything out, and we'll move to the other location. Like I said, this is just a demo blank, but we're still drilling these mortises at the same 16 degrees. So this will give you a good look at what it is like to drill leg mortises, and actually drilling the mortises and then doing the reaming all in the same operation, so to speak. So we're clamping that back in. You know, in real life I would probably have those clamps inverted, but it would make for bad video. You wouldn't want to see those clamp bars obscuring your angle here. So anyway, so here we are. Again, we want to drill these at a fast speed, and I think I started off at a slower speed, but I corrected that. Now we're drilling that at a fast speed, and there we go. And then like I said before, it's a lot of rinse and repeat here. We switch over to the actual reamer. And I did want to mention that Shawn Murphy's selling an actual coupler attachment and a kit, and so that you can actually create your own wooden handle for this reamer. So if you want to do any hand reaming with it, like you might need to do for a back post, because back posts are really finicky and you gotta kind of ream those in tandem. They're very, very slow. Well, slow speed, in this case, hand reaming. So that'll work. But here we are, we're reaming this leg mortise, and we got our depth stop here. Like I said, that's insurance. We want to, stop every so often and clear the chips and get down there, make sure we're at the proper distance here, and we are. So we want to make sure that everything looks good, and there we go. So we take this off. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and take everything apart and take the jig off the blank, and we will actually put a dummy chair leg in here and measure that, so you can just see how accurate this is. Again, these mortises were supposed to be at 16 degrees. So here in a second, as soon as we get all this stuff cleared away, maybe I should have edited some of this out, but hey, it's always fun. So, and here we are. So we got our dummy leg. We put that in, and we get our bevel gauge. Like I said, you don't need any bevel gauges for these operations, but just to show you how accurate it is, I do like to use a bevel gauge. So we're actually using the bevel gauge to take a reading directly off this leg, and then we will compare it to this here. So there we go. So we're right at 16 degrees. And we'll do the same thing for the other tapered mortise we reamed. And we'll put that up there. And secure the bevel gauge, so make sure everything's right. And again, here we are, right at 16 degrees. That's just how accurate this method is. Okay, let's talk about if you just want to go ahead and drill your leg holes and then come back and ream them. How would you set this up to be able to ream at the exact angle that you drilled? Or let's say that you like to drill from the top side of the seat and then come back and ream from the bottom side of the seat. How would you do that? Well, first of all, if you drill from the bottom side of the seat and then you want to come back and ream it, it's real easy. You can just put a mark where the end of this is, and then you can quickly come back and establish that. Now, to establish the jig in line with your sight line, two options here. You can simply take the gauge block and put it on the back side here and line everything up just like that. Or you can also excuse me, use a rule. Now this is a Stair Rule, either from a 6-inch double square or a 12-inch combination square. These are 1 inch wide, and you can put that on the back end and do the same thing here and line everything up. Or you could use a 1, 2, 3 block, and that would accomplish the same thing. This being your standard 1, 2, 3 block, you could put that there and line everything up with a 1, 2, 3 block, and then clamp down and you're ready to go. Alternatively, let's say that you like to drill from the top side of the seat, and then you want to come back and ream, of course, from the bottom side of the seat. You're going to have lines that you have drawn on the bottom, similar to these here. You won't have these marks, of course. So what can you do in that case? In that case, you would want to use a digital angle gauge like this one here. And what you would then do is simply insert your shaft with the reamer, get it set in the hole, then put this here. The angle of these particular holes, these are the back leg holes, or the mortise for those should be at 24.5 degrees. So then you would simply get this to 24.5. Sorry if my head gets in the way here. It's hard to read. 24.55. That's close enough for chair making. So we want to, then I'm going to just bring this in and make sure we get everything lined up with our sight line, and then go back over here. Normally I would have this pointed towards me, so I need to go back a little bit. 24.5. So at that point we would just clamp everything down.
Hello, voiceover Kyle again with you to narrate you through this. So we're reaming out these 24.5 degree leg holes on this poplar seat blank, and we're just going through this with the actual poplar I found, which is a little bit harder wood, just going a bit faster, still in #1 setting, and not wide open on the #1 setting, but just a bit faster than we do in softer woods like pine. So we want to take a look at that, and again use that small base with those markings to make sure that we're at the right depth, and there we are. So we're going to go ahead and take this off and go ahead and put our depth stop on here, so that we have this for our other leg hole that we're going to do, and we're going to do that in a little bit different manner.
Okay, I got everything set up. I got this in here, so we're ready to go. Now this time, I'm going to use the mark that I made when we drilled the hole. So that's on the back side of here. It's a mark right here that's even with the tower. So, and this time I'm going to use the gauge block. So I'm just going to set that in here, and I'm going to get to my mark and get the gauge block in line with the sight line, and there we are right there. So everything's ready to go, and we can clamp it down.
All right, here we go. We got everything clamped up for this last demo, and again, we're drilling this at 24.5 degrees, and we're using the back of the tower to do the thing, and we also have the drill stop in place so that we can make sure that we have insurance as far as the depth, and we're securing the drill here and making sure that's on the #1 setting, and doing this at a fairly slow speed, and clearing those chips as we go along. So we always want to make sure that even though we do have the drill stop there, that we're constantly checking to make sure that we're also cognizant of the mark there that we have on the reamer, and we're looking at that maybe just a little bit more, so we'll give that a couple of turns and then check again, and I think we're right on at that point. So there we have it. We take that off. And again, I'm going to go ahead and take everything apart, and let's just see how we all measure up at 24.5 degrees. So we're taking the clamps off here, and like I said earlier, maybe I should edit part of this out, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this is unedited, so that you can actually see, hey, these are the actual results we're getting from this. There's no sleight of hand or sleight of measurements, so to speak. So we have the dummy leg in, and we actually align the bevel gauge up to that dummy leg, and then we transfer that over to the bevel indicator here, and we're looking for 24.5 degrees, and bingo, right there. But you say, oh, that's only one of the holes you ream, so how about the other one with the other technique? So let's take a look at that one too. So we line that up, lock the bevel gauge at that angle, making sure, yeah, and we line that up with our gauge here, and sure enough, we're at 24.5 degrees. You can't ask for better than that, and it's just that simple and that accurate.